Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and as a lot of you guys know, yesterday, the criminal case against Jeffrey Epstein and the sex trafficking allegations, the indictment that included 3 unnamed employees, went away, went into the dust yesterday. Gone, 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 gone. And with that being said, now the focus of attention, even in this country, although it had kind of been overseas on Prince Andrew, is focusing towards him as well. And as you guys know, I showed you this picture in a previous broadcast. That's Aaron Dykes of TruthStream Media over the weekend saying, man, this is everywhere right now. This is everywhere right now. What is going to happen? So what I want to do with this video is not only go over some of the preposterous allegations. It's the Shaggy defense. He's taken a page out of Conor McGregor and Dana White's book. Dana White gets asked about the sexual assault allegations that aren't really sexual assault allegations. They're allegations of a man who beat, raped, and sodomized a young woman in front of other people, including alleged Irish gangsters, and a huge cover-up that's ensued. But it wasn't him, according to Dana White. Dana White said, I don't know anything about it, but when I did talk to Conor about it, he said it wasn't him. So now, Prince Andrew's like, that happened in Dublin, that's in Ireland. Okay, it's a little closer to I'm going to use that. It wasn't me. These photographs that have been around in the public square for almost a decade now, they're photoshopped. Those aren't my fingers. What? It's comic book level. And it's a big distraction as to what Prince Andrew's real relationship was to Epstein when these photos were taking place, after we all knew what he was, so that denial is done, after the Palm Beach incident, still partying away at Jeffrey's mansion, with socialites and young women everywhere. Come on, Prince, you got it. Yep. And they're all focusing on that aspect. They're not focusing on the aspect that Prince Andrew was his arms dealer. Wait, Jeffrey's arms dealer? No, the UK's arms dealer. But you gotta wonder what this relationship was all about, if Jeffrey Epstein might have been making money on some arms deals. And remember, they're in Les Wexner's mansion, essentially, the $77 million mansion that was given to him, that was set up as a James Bond-style place. And we're really going to dive a little deeper into Wexner in this broadcast. But I want to remind everybody, while Prince Andrew is saying his chubby fingers prove this picture is fake, Photoshop! It's not Photoshop, folks. 100% not Photoshop. Look at the red blown. Let me just tell you, as a guy that works with Photoshop on a daily basis, you see his hands, you see how they're red and blown out, similar to this color, similar to her face, okay? Even this backhand kind of has that same tone. You see the darkness here. All the color levels match in this photograph. It's absolutely crazy. But to get into Wexner, okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Leslie Wexner when I have Johnny Vedmore of the Swamp.media on to go over the follow-up to his Nicole Junkerman article. And we're also going to be focusing on this article from August 1st, 2003, the Wexner War. Now, what I really thought that, I didn't know, because Wexner's portrayed as sort of this, how do I describe it? This mogul in the fashion industry, right? Well, while that's going on, and he has that James Bond-style obsession, where he has a bathroom reminiscent of that, Wexner, before he gives it here, there was a quote in the London Sunday Times. This article's from 2003, before any of the public allegations against Epstein, talking about Epstein, okay? The London Sunday Times quoted a New York Social Observer describing Epstein as follows: "He's Mr. Enigmatic. Nobody knows whether he's a concert pianist, property developer, a CIA agent, a math teacher, or a member of Mossad." New York Magazine claims Epstein is the man who moves Wexner's billions around the globe. All right? Now, he's moving billions for Wexner, And we all know about the mega group, but we're really going to get into military industrial complex Wexner in this broadcast and much further when we talk to Johnny Vedmore lately. So this defense is his new one. It wasn't me. Fake. I don't know Virginia Giuffre Roberts. I don't know her. Wasn't me. Fake Photoshop. Give me a break. So after that claim, the FBI has now seized that photo of Prince Andrew. And I have no confidence in this justice system, and neither should you. You should have zero confidence. Absolutely none. Because while this is going on, okay, the media is again trying to play up, oh, look, it's Donald Trump and Prince Andrew, and there's Jeffrey Epstein in the back. These aren't new photographs, all right? They're not really just surfacing. Anybody could have looked and found these photographs 10, 15 years ago. I think these are, they might even be Getty Images licensed photographs at Mar-a-Lago. I know I've seen this one for years. So this one here with Epstein in the background, that probably wasn't that hard to dig up. Especially because it seems to be similar to that one right there. I'm not sure if it's the same party, but it looks like Melania's in the same dress, so it very well could be. Things have been out. But that's what the media wants to focus on. They want to focus on all that. Meanwhile, when these women spoke, who did they name? Well, they named some of the co-conspirators. Now, one of these co-conspirators I hadn't really mentioned much, if at all, maybe Adriana Ross. But Sarah Kalin, Nadia Marcinkova, Leslie Groff, Natalia Malyshev, they are all names I have named in the past. And they are still running free, and that's only part of the network, right? But here's the kicker. In this article, where, again, it alleges, even talking about the mega group, okay, back then. This is 2003. All right, 2003, the mega group. What we know and what we don't about retail mogul Les Wexner's connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Let me tell you a little something about Mr. Wexner that goes beyond his Victoria's Secret brands and limited brands. And yes, having young women around and even illegal women around to compromise people does seem to be a theme of not only Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but Wexner as well, providing those women. But what I didn't know was there's a document out there from 2003 all about the war on terror from the Wexner Group. All right, so this is a think tank organization that when you read this stuff is outright military industrial complex driven. So you know that they are profiteering enormously from this war on terror. And this is an Israeli communication. This is Wexner basically going as pro-Israel as it gets, especially in the Middle East. And he talks about the policies there and how now is the time to dominate that region. And that they pulled this before and after. I'm just going to read a little bit. This is a really short document, 17 pages. But even the first couple pages are just so telling. The world has changed. The words, themes, and messages on behalf of Israel must include and embrace the new reality of a post-Saddam world. In the past, we have urged a lower profile for Israel out of a fear that the American people would blame Israel for what was happening in the rest of the Middle East. Keep that low profile. Now is the time to link American success in dealing with terrorism. We took out the Bin Laden network and Al-Qaeda, and now it took out Saddam. America! We got color-coded terror systems. In dealing with terrorism and dictators from a position of strength, to Israel's ongoing efforts to eradicate terrorism on and within its borders, its ever-expanding borders. And remember, basically anybody who's not down with the program is a terrorist, right? You're seeing that even in the United States today with those FBI documents. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a terrorist. In the current political environment, you have little to lose and a lot to gain by aligning with America. With all the anti-Americanism across the globe and the protests and demonstrations, we are looking for allies that share our commitment to security and an end to terrorism and are prepared to say so. Israel is just such an ally. The next step, the fact that Israel has remained relatively silent for the 3 months preceding the war and for the 3 weeks of the war was absolutely the correct strategy. And according to all the polling done, it worked. But as the military conflict comes to a close, it is now time for Israel to lay out its own roadmap for the future, which includes unqualified support for America and unqualified commitment to an ongoing war against terrorism that goes on to this day, that reaches out to Syria, and is very soon, in my opinion, to include Iran. Not that it hasn't been on the table, but they are pushing for that to go on. And remember, Israel's aggression militarily recently with Iran has just been over the top. I got to get Patrick Henningsen back on to talk about that. Perceptions of Israel and Israeli-Palestinian conflict are being almost entirely colored and often overshadowed by the continuing action in Iraq. Good, have that distraction in the United States that's going to get our policies pushed through. Partisan differences still exist. The political left remains your problem. So, yes, the left, not much anymore, although they keep pointing out, Ilhan Omar and a couple others. But the truth is, there were many people on the right, such as, I guess you could say, Ron Paul at the time, and Rand Paul today, that were heavily against these heavy-handed Israeli policies. And complaints about Israeli heavy-handedness still exist. Advocates of Israel have about 2 weeks to get their message in order before world attention turns to the so-called roadmap and how best to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Still going on today, 16 years later. Much worse. Developing that message is the purpose of that memo. Okay? So, they talk about how this is a communications manual, et cetera, et cetera. This was leaked, by the way. Essential conclusions. This document is rather long because it is impossible to communicate all that is needed on one simple sentence sound bites. Yes, we have provided those on the pages that follow, but we have taken a space to explain why the language is so important in the context. Iraq colors all. Saddam is your best defense, even if he is dead. All right? I mean, you got to go through this thing. We're going to be talking about it with Vedmore. It tells you, literally lays out what to do. It does not help when you compliment President Bush. When you want to identify with or align yourself with America, just do it. Don't use Bush as a synonym. That's how unpopular that president was. So these guys are very smart, and Wexner is having think tank papers that say security sells. Security has become the key fundamental principle for all Americans. Security is the context by which you should explain Israelis' need for loan guarantees and military aid, as well as why Israel can't just give up land. The settlements are our Achilles heel and the best response, while it's still quite weak. They admit how weak their response is on these. It's mind-blowing because it is a weak response. Listen, a lot of people will come after me and say, hey, Jason, you're anti-Israel. No, I'm anti a neocon, an expansionist, a.k.a. Zionist agenda that's unaccountable for the Middle East. I'm like a Jimmy Carter guy. Now, nobody wants to talk about Jimmy Carter and the book that he wrote, Peace Not Apartheid, on the Palestinian and Israeli solution of that initial two-state border solution that was agreed to, I believe, at the Geneva Conventions, which no longer is really even in existence. There was a movie about that also followed him on that book tour that I watched. I actually brought that up on my old InfoWarrior show when I was on InfoWars. So my position really hasn't changed at all. I don't like warmongers. I don't like people dying, but this is how it's done. This is how they literally go over policy. They tell you what your talking points are, what to exploit. They admit what their weaknesses are, and it's all on paper. And nobody in the mainstream media is going to tell you that Les Wexner is involved in any of this. Any of this. So again, take a good look. There he is, Les Wexner. Supposedly Epstein's only client. I'm not letting these stories go away. And that's why, again, later today, we're going to go over more even in depth this story from 2003. Remember, before Epstein was outed as a pedophile, this, you got to read it, The Wexner War. It's a must read. Johnny Vedmore of the Swamp.media to go over what he learned about Nicole Junkerman, where they went. I think it's a really interesting story. There's still some mystery there. And then later on, I'm probably going to, I got to really go through this, but Daniel Hopsicker, who does incredible work, and I encourage people to go check his stuff out, just did a new piece on Epstein that I'm sure is going to be outside the realm of even most of the alternative media. So it's going to be an Epstein-heavy day. We're also going to do a dog walk and talk, probably down to the park because she's not limping much today. She looks great. Karma looks great. And she's been bugging me to go outside. All my films, Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture are available for free over at my page. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe now, ring that bell, thumbs these up, share it on social media. It means the world to me. It helps this channel get out. We're over 33K, now on the road to 50K. And if you can, $5, $10, $15, it helps me so much. That's how I'm doing this. 7 days a week, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day with your help. So I don't have a Patreon. There is no subscribe star. Probably going to put together a P.O. box really soon. But other than that, guys, I got a little Bitcoin address, and you're the ones funding me. So I thank you very much. With all that being said, I will see you on the flip side.